Go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. We will talk about security and how to protect your company info. And in about 30 minutes, you'll be able to increase the security of your company many times over. The presenter, most of you already know and have met, is the owner at PCSN, Nadeem Azar. Mr. Azar has been working in IT security for over 20 years and has worked with many agencies over the years. I'll now turn over the mic to Nadeem.
Thank you, Mac, for that wonderful introduction. My name is Nadeem Azar. I've been doing this since '97. I've worked with several different agencies over the years regarding security. I have some insight into how the hackers and the bad guys work. So we're gonna jump right into it. Today we have limited time, so we'll just keep going, and we'll keep all the questions till the end. So today we're going to cover what is cybercrime in non-techie terms. It not only uh, damages your reputations, but we've seen that in small business, most companies that go through a disaster like this, they do not recover. So it's pretty much a do or die situation for a lot of small companies, small businesses. We're going to go over why you can be the target, why you are the target, and you can be the next victim, and why the bad guys do what they do. And then finally, we're going to show you how to protect yourself. And ultimately, it's about the bottom line. We're going to show you how to be smart, strategic, and intentional with your IT decisions. We don't want to kind of haphazardly go through trying to do this and do that and not really know. We want to do the tried and true things as far as security is concerned. So that's going to be the goal of this webinar. Uh, and if you hang out till the end, we're going to do an assessment, and we will kind of go through the domain and see if there are any compromises and how your domain security is from a public perspective. So this is going to be information that is available to the public. There is no confidential information that we're going to share in this webinar. So you're probably asking who the heck is Nadeem, and I've been doing this for 20 years, and my focus is a small to medium-sized business. That's what we focus on. There's plenty of resources available for large enterprise, but it's kind of rare in the small business space to find somebody who focuses on security within the small to medium-sized business budget. I have come up with a strategy that is designed for 20 to 50 user businesses. So we do have that, and um, so I have a strategy for 20 to 50 user business without requiring the large enterprise budget. PCSN is uniquely positioned to focus on security since we have a wide variety of expertise around cloud, app dev, and even enterprise voice industries. So we kind of have this big picture view with our specialists in these different fields, and we kind of bring it all together and kind of glue all that together. So we are very strategic about this, and we can really help small to medium sized business get their security better, a lot of times better than how it is in enterprise. And we'll talk about this later on. So why is this important? You can see some of the numbers up here on the screen. Now, these are older numbers from 2012, but these are concrete numbers. They're accurate numbers. 289,000 number of reported incidents in 2012. And then you can see the amount of funds that was involved. Now, keep in mind, small businesses, medium businesses, they are under no obligation to report incidents. So these numbers are very conservative. And that was in 2012. So now you can imagine how this number has kind of skyrocketed, right? Stolen funds, they're not reported by small business, but we do see that a lot of times when a small business has an incident, and I believe the number is somewhere around 49% of the time during a disaster, these companies, they do not survive. So it's pretty much a do or die situation for small business. A little history. Why is this a problem all of a sudden? Why this wasn't a problem 10, 12, 13 years ago? Why is it a problem all of a sudden? Because of the number of devices that we have connected to the internet. So that's the problem. It's a double-edged sword. You want to have all these devices connected, to maximize user productivity, but then being connected kind of opens the door for the bad guys to get access. Here's a little bit of overview of the threat landscape for small business. Now, this is specifically for small business, and you can see the number is 43% of cyber attacks that target small business. Now, these are actual numbers. 43% of small businesses. That's a large number. So 43% are attacked, and out of that 43%,
Richard
a lot of these companies will eventually go out of business depending on the level of attack. And out of these 43 businesses, 55 devices are compromised. A lot of times, businesses don't even know that some of their devices are compromised. So that's something to keep in mind. So 60% of small business will close their doors after a cyber attack. Now, we're not talking about one machine getting hacked here, one machine getting hacked there. The attacks are getting sophisticated. They're getting more targeted. If you get one computer infected, the goal for the bad guys is going to be to use that one infected computer to infect everything across your network. So it's critical going forward, especially in this day and age, when you have multiple devices connected to the internet, that we protect. We have a holistic approach to security when it comes to your IT infrastructure. So the average cyber attack remediation cost for small business is $900,000. That's the average. So that's a huge number, and that's why a lot of the small businesses, they close their doors after a cyber attack. And we're going to talk about several different customers we've helped. Jason Epps is president of QuickServe. They build these quick delivery service windows. They're at banks, Walgreens, drive-throughs. They make these quick serve windows. In a recent audit that was done at QuickServe, the auditors were impressed by the level of security at this company. Now, this company was going through a merger slash acquisition phase, and that's why third-party auditors were brought in. And Jason called me one day and he says, "Hey, Nadeem, I was kind of dreading this, that they were going to do an audit and our security was not going to be on par because we are a small business." The auditors were blown away that the level of security this company has. Now, from a big perspective, it's just a service window manufacturer, but it is a very competitive market to be in. You wouldn't think so, but yes, it is. So we have propelled QuickServe to a point where they don't have to worry about issues like viruses, hackers. User comes in, they get to work, it just works, and that's our goal, is to make it easy for users so that it just works. Now, talking about this, one of the things that the question comes up, and I usually ask attendees, when we're in a seminar, it's easy to ask and get a poll, but I'll just ask this: how many people here think that they use some sort of cloud technology? Now, normally when I say this, about half of the room raises their hand. Everybody should raise their hand. You may not know it, but pretty much every business out there is using some sort of cloud technology. Even if you are not aware, you are using it, and I can guarantee you that. It's just a given. As time goes on, we're going to see more and more businesses that are doing this. So some of the things that I hear from owners, business owners, and decision makers, why they think they're safe and protected. They don't need to do anything. They don't need to worry about hackers, because the hacker doesn't want anything on my PC. Now, of course, this is a little different for business, but this could also apply to your home PC. You might be thinking, well, the only thing I do is I connect to my office from my home PC. I have nothing saved on my home PC. Why would anybody want my home PC? So even if you don't have any sensitive information on your home PC, the bad guys want to recruit your PC to be a part of their bot network. So what they want to do is use your PC to attack other PCs. Simple as that. If your PC is connected to the internet, you are the bad guys are already looking at how they can get into your PC. So this rationale does not work that there's nothing on my PC, or I just use it for checking email, or my company's not big enough, for the hackers to, we don't work for the CIA, or we don't do any work for any three-letter agencies. There's nothing confidential or important, like that on my PC. If that's the mindset you're going in with, then you are mistaken. Every company out there has information that someone else out there is looking for. And even if you do not, if it's a personal machine, let's say it's just for your kids to use, the bad guys still want in on that PC so they can recruit it for their bot network. And just a quick overview of how valuable one PC is. Now, this is a PC that is not even on your company network. This is an individual PC, maybe your PC at home that maybe kids use or somebody uses every now and then. Look at how many avenues of information this PC has that the bad guys want. So you can use it for bot activity, account credentials, financial credentials, hostage attacks. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that's going on. And we're going to cover all of this. We're going to go over how you can make your PC, even your PC at the house, safer, and especially how you can safeguard your enterprise network. So the question comes, well, okay, we know the bad guys are doing this, but why are they doing this? What's in it for them? Well, this is what's in it for them. So these are some real world examples here. Look at this, Citibank. Now this was for sale. A balance of 15 to 47,000 is guaranteed in this bank account, and they're selling this information for 5%. So this is actually available on the black market, what we call the dark web, for sale. So if you have 40,000 US dollars in a bank account, they're going to sell it for 5% balance. It's a lucrative business to be in, right? And and that's why the bad guys do it. A lot of times you'll hear a story from somebody who says, oh yeah, I got a call, it was somebody claiming to be from the sheriff. They have warrants for my arrest because blah blah blah, because of some IRS audit that, uh, how can somebody fall for that? Well, you didn't fall for it, but people still fall for it, and that's why bad guys keep doing it, because it's very lucrative business for them to be in. Another example of how the bad guys get paid. Look at this. For $10, you can buy an account that has $147 in it. That's the US balance, right? And that is verified. You can go down non-verified, $349, and for $10. So all of these are available for $10. Now this is actual data available on the dark web. When we pulled this presentation together, this was actual data at that time. The numbers we are seeing, that these numbers over here, the balances, these are going up, and the bad guys are doing a lot more volume than what they were only a few years ago. Here's another example, American Express, for sale, American Express or Discover. So this is $25 each. Now, there could be, you can charge up to, a few $100s or a few $1,000s on MX, and you can buy it for $25. So very, very lucrative business to be in, for both the buyers and the sellers, right? So the question becomes, how do you wrap your head around the overall security of your business, right? When we talk about security, people think ransomware. People think emails getting hacked. People think email credentials getting hacked, right? That's just a small part of the pie. One of the things that is overlooked very easily, and I see this all the time in small to medium business, is the third-party sites that your users have to go to in the course of their business. Some of you might have LinkedIn accounts. I know some of you have LinkedIn accounts and you use it for business. Facebook, more and more businesses are getting involved in Facebook. I mean, in the marketplace and things like that. There's more and more stuff going on over there. Twitter, some of you might be using it, some of you might not. Now I know internally we use Facebook, we use LinkedIn, we use Twitter. We don't use Instagram or anything like that. But that opens you up to the bad guys. So, for example, you might use Dropbox, you might use Box. Now, what happens in this situation is if your LinkedIn credentials, let's say, for example, your LinkedIn credential gets hacked, that's associated with your company email address, right? Now, the bad guys know that the password that you're using is going to be something similar to that what you're using for your LinkedIn account. So they are already so much closer to getting access to your account. Now, of course, there are things that you can put in place that protect your core services like your email identities that protect that. So you can enable multi-factor authentication. However, be cautious. Don't let your guard down that you've enabled MFA and multi-factor authentication and that you should be protected. There has been a proof of concept attack already launched and proven that it works. MFA, people can get around that. so don't just implement MFA and call it a day. You have to be proactive about security, right? So uh, can anybody guess how many cyber attacks happen in a day? Um, so uh, normally I ask this in a seminar and we're all over the board. So I'm going to give you the answer. Approximately every day, about 1 million cyber attacks are attempted. 1 million every day. Majority of the targets are small to medium business. So what you see in the news, the large enterprise that gets hacked, the LinkedIns of the world or the Facebooks of the world that get hacked, that's just a small portion. Majority of the attacks are happening against small business that we don't even hear about because there is no requirement for these businesses to divulge that data to announce that they've been compromised. So, another thing I hear from small business owners and small businesses is that, oh, we are too small to be attacked. So look at some of the numbers here. No business is safe. It doesn't matter if you're a 5-user business or if you're a 500-user business. Data is data at the end of the day, and that's what bad guys are after. So 1 million attacks per day and 80,000 plus compromised emails daily. Now, you can control some of this by implementing MFA, but keep in mind, MFA is not going to do it all for you. There is already a proof of concept to get around MFA. And all it takes is one bad guy at your cell provider, and there goes your MFA, right? That PIN goes over your cellular network. The average number of breach records, 28,000, right? Huge number. And you can read on the screen. Hopefully everybody can read that, some of the numbers here. I'm not going to go through all of those. But what we are going to touch on is a helpful tip. So what do you do if you realize that a machine or a couple of machines on your network have been compromised, right? If you have strategized about your security, you should not get to this point. But if you are at this point, what do you need to do? First of all, disconnect the machine from the network and then get professional help. I have seen it several times where, and I'll give you a real world example at a law firm. One of the office workers, her machine got hacked. This was Friday. So her machine got compromised and she started Googling from the same machine, mind you. She started Googling to figure out how to clean it up. She didn't want to say anything. She was a new hire, so she didn't want to say anything. She was browsing the web, and that's how it got hacked or compromised. So Friday night, She leaves, her machine is still infected. She tried to Google, try to figure out how to clean up stuff, and she couldn't figure it out. So she was like, okay, it's getting late. I'm going to leave. I'll figure it out Monday. Well, this was a ransomware attack. So come Monday, the server was compromised by this time because she left her machine compromised. It was still connected to the network, and it had the whole weekend to encrypt as many files as it could on their servers. Now, had this company not had a good, reliable backup system, they would have been out of business. I mean, we're talking a law firm. We're talking a law firm that has to be in court, a law firm that has court deadlines. They can't go to the judge and say, "Oh, judge, we got ransomware attack. Sorry, we can't do anything." That doesn't work. So, of course, come Monday morning, everybody's scrambling. What do we do? How do we get to this data? Hey, I need to be in court. I need this. I need that file that you were working on Friday. Well, too bad, so sad, right? So along with security, one of the main things that you want to do is make sure that you have good backups. So disconnect your machine, uh, get a professional help. Don't try to Google for a fix. That is not going to work. It's only going to make matters worse. So in this example that I gave you about the law firm, the lady was trying to solve after Googling. She was trying to fix that ransomware attack issue that she had. And what did she end up doing? She ended up removing the key, the decryption key that was going to be used to decrypt if you paid the ransom. That's how the ransomware works, right? So they put a key on your computer. Once you pay the ransom, they give you a key to unlock it matches up to the key on your computer, and it unlocks the data and decrypts it for you. It's all automated. There's no human involvement at that point. So that's how it works. But what happened in this case is the lady tried to fix it herself. So she removed the key on that was on her machine. The one piece of information that was on that machine that could have been used to decrypt the data, she removed because she was trying to use Google to fix her problem. And don't try that unless you've been doing this for a living. You've been doing this for a while. The bad guys are always going to have. They're going to be one step ahead of you. So your process of attempting to resolve it is only going to make matters worse. And I've seen it several times. Specifically at this law firm, and this law firm is still in business. They just couldn't afford to pay for the cleanup after the fact because the damage was so far done. And when we were brought in, we found out that they had backups. The backups were good backups, but they were not historical backups. So they only can go back one day in time. And since this attack happened on a Friday, come Monday morning, it was already too late because even the backup was corrupted at this point. So uh, just a word of caution there. Why are attacks so successful? So it only takes a hacker about 4 minutes to get to your network, right? But it takes a business 99 or more days to discover that they've been breached and start doing something about that. Ransomware is an anomaly, right? Ransomware, it's easy to detect. As soon as your files get encrypted, you cannot access your files. Boom, there's a red flag right there. But some of the other attacks are not as evident. They will the attack will happen. The bot or the bad guys will stay on your machine silent for several days or months even, and then one day they will activate it, and then they'll start either making attacks to other machines from your machine or using the data off of your machine. Now, one of the things that you may have encountered recently is a much more focused attack, which we are seeing, and we'll talk a little bit about it as we go on. So 30% of users open emails from attackers, right? 10% of them click on links. A question would be, do you know how many compromised emails your users open? So are your users aware of how to tell an email is bad? Now, keep in mind, the bad emails are going to come from somebody they know. So the bad guys got around that, sending email from a strange account. They're not going to do that. Your users are going to get an email from somebody they already know. So the temptation is to go ahead and click on that email and open it. And then the second temptation is to click on that link on that email. Just a funny fact, majority of people who click on links, those links were about a funny joke. I kid you not. It was about a funny joke. In the body of the email, it says, "Oh, look at this, very funny," and then there's a link there. So since it came from somebody you're like, "Oh yeah, John always sends me funny jokes," and you click on that link, and boom, the damage is done. 63% of attacks are because of weak passwords, either default, stolen, or weak passwords. Now, that 63%, how that works is normally there are two parties involved in an attack. There is a party that uh, compromises your credentials, and then the first party sells these credentials on one of the marketplaces to a second party that then launches the attack. So this is what we've seen traditionally happen: two parties involved, or two or more. One party gets the credentials, second party launches the attack against those credentials. Now, we're seeing a third type of attack recently, which is a much more focused attack, which you may have encountered already. It is prevalent in the small business space, which is the bad guys want to, uh, the bad guys want to, it's just one party, and the one party is focused on getting the credentials to an entity on your network. And then the same one party is the one launching the attack to get information. And the way this works is the bad guy, and usually it's a company, and I'm putting that in quotes you can't see, but so this entity is going to attack, focus on your users, attack those users, get their credentials, silently go through their mailbox, identify prospects that can be beneficial to them. Usually, these prospects are people who owe you money. And then, since they go through this email and they had already focused on somebody in your either accounting or accounts receivable or whatever have you, now the bad guys have invoice information. They know what your invoices look like. They know who owes you money. Now it's very easy for them to create an invoice and send to your prospects who owe you money, or just send an email from that compromised account at your domain that was somebody in finance, somebody in accounting that they compromised. So when an email comes out from this account, it goes to one of your partners who owe you money, and the email says, "Oh, we just changed our bank accounts, and this is the new bank information. Please submit the payment for invoice so and so to this bank account." And I kid you not, most vendors, partners who owe you money are sending money based on that email. Now, in larger enterprise, there is a policy, and the policy is any change of account information, you are required to use an alternate method of contact to confirm. So if the request came in via email, you are required to either get confirmation via fax or via phone call. If that request came in via phone call, then you are required to use either fax or email or snail mail. So basically, you use an alternate method for confirmation, because if you get an email and you're replying back via email, that email is not going to make it to the actual user. The bad guys are in between there. So the bad guys are going to get that email and they're going to respond back, "Oh yes, it's true, it's urgent, please do so now." And we've seen that happen. We've seen doing an analysis of one of these breaches. It was interesting to see that there was actually a human that was going through the mailbox and responding to people and taking care of this hack. And the one company that got hacked, they got had for about $61,000. And yeah, it happened. Now, on the other side of the equation, the banks, they are not required to get your money back. Most of the time they can, just because you're a good customer, but they're not required to. And insurance does not cover cybercrime. So the FDIC does not cover cybercrime. So push comes to shove, the bank can say, hey, what's done is done, we can't do anything, right? So when something like this happens and you need to approach your bank, don't be forceful about it. Make a request, not a demand. And in the, what I've seen so far, some of the companies that have gotten involved in these kind of attacks, they have got their money back from the bank, just because the banks want to accommodate. The banks want to keep you happy, but they could say no if they wanted to. And 58% of users accidentally share information. That's a big one too. So training is important in these kind of situations. You want to do several different things. You want to train your users to identify what is an attack. What does an attack look like, right? And once you train them, you want to check if that training took hold in that user's mind, right? So you want to then test them somehow. And then once you do that, then you want to go back to in the circle. You want to go back to the training part. So if you identify certain users are weak, let's say in identifying links in an email, or they end up clicking links in an email, well, we want to put those users back into training. Now, all this data that you're doing, all this data that you're collecting, you want to be able to report it in an easy to read way, because with IT and managers in any department, you can't throw a lot of this information, a lot of this raw data at them and expect them to make heads or tails of it. So you need to be able to present this in an easy to understand way, so that they see the benefit of training or test or whatever you're doing, right? So one of the things that you want to do that is crucial, step one, we always talk about, is monitoring. So do you have some sort of an alert system in place when a user's credentials go up for sale? Are you alerted? Does your IT team know user so and so's credentials are compromised? And it doesn't matter if MFA is enabled on that user or not, because it's only a matter of time. MFA, with the proof of concept that just happened a few months ago, it's only a matter of time that people are going to get around the MFA thing. uh, a lot of times what we see is that these credentials, they get leaked from third parties like LinkedIn or let's say Marriott. Now, MyFitnessPal, yeah, that's what I was thinking of. So we had another. Now this is a public company. It's an insurance company. So being a public company, they are required to report breaches, right? So this company had their employee health program, which was tied to MyFitnessPal. So they gave everybody membership to MyFitnessPal for their employees to keep up their health. Well, since MyFitnessPal was now associated with the company in some way in their employees' heads, the employees were using same or similar credentials that they use for their company email, right? It just makes sense because, oh, well, the company's sponsoring that, so I'm going to use the same credential, right? So when MyFitnessPal got hacked, and it's real, yes, they did get hacked. When they got hacked, a lot of the credentials that were used on MyFitnessPal were the same credentials these people were using for their company email. Now, the MyFitnessPal uses the email address as a username. So as soon as that got breached, the bad guys had the people's usernames, people's passwords. If MFA was not enabled for these users, piece of cake. They're going in. They're in. The damage is done. If MFA was enabled, now the bad guys have to do one more step. They either need to get around that MFA using this proof of concept, or maybe they don't know that MFA is enabled, and when they try to log in, the user gets that PIN code on their handheld in the middle of the night. And if it's a savvy user, they'll be like, oh, I know what happened. Somebody's trying to log in. I'm going to change my password right now. That would be the right thing to do, only if the user was trained to do it. A lot of times user will be like, they'll get this pin code in the middle of the night, and then by morning they'll go to their IT guys and say, oh, hey, something's messed up because I'm getting these pin codes in the middle of the night. And of course, the IT guys are going to roll their eyes and say, oh. But training is a crucial part. The first step is you need to be monitoring what's happening, what's going on as far as these breaches. Soon as somebody's credentials go up for sale, you want to be able to capture that and report on that. These are some of the recent breaches. So I don't know if MyFitnessPal is on here or not. Maybe that's too recent. Yeah, it's not on there. But anyway, so you can see, some of these companies are. I mean, we use them every day, right? I mean, oh, MyFitnessPal is there. Look, 150 million. Wow. Okay. Marriott. Oh, that was a big number. But you get the idea what happens here. So what we want to do is, and normally we will do this. Now you can send your information to Mac, and what Mac will do is he can pull your domain and see if anything on your domain is available right now. But I'm going to go a step further on this, and what we're going to do is there are a few users here, so we're going to take a test company, and I'm going to show you how a breach has happened and if a certain domain is compromised. So I'm going to use, let me log into my system real quick and I'll move it over to the other screen so you can see. What we're going to do is, I think I have a test company that we will use. So here we go. Let me just log in, do my second factor authentication here. And as soon as we're in, I'll move it over to the other screen. Here we go. And actually, let me move it over. There's too much here. I don't want to show all that. Let me drill down to, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a live search right now, right? So I'm not going to show you one of the existing accounts that we're monitoring, but I'm going to do a live search. So let's do a live search on something a little generic, okay? So let's say at, how about gmail.com, right? Everybody knows what Gmail is. Let's see. Public domain is not going to let me do that. Okay, so we're going to do, let's do, this is a test domain, grandma's garden.biz. All right, so let's do a test on that. So private domain, boom, looky here. So you see what happened here. MyFitnessPal breach in 2018 was that credential was sold on a dark website. So these credentials got sold twice. Interesting. So on 6/21, they got sold on a dark website. Somebody bought these credentials, and then it was for sale again on ID Theft Forum. So now, a lot of times these credentials, they may get sold multiple times, right? And for some of you who can see the screen, you can see how the same, the user Katie, her credentials got sold twice. Now, if you were on this system and you were the IT admin with access to this portal, you'll be able to see the full password. When we do this quick search, we try to hide or obfuscate the password. We don't show all of it, But if you were the IT admin and you had access to this portal, you'll be able to see the full password of that user and be able to verify if that's an actual user, actual credential for that user or not, and if those are the same credentials the user is using on other sites as opposed to MyFitnessPal. So let's look at this right here. Okay. So this is, I'm not going to say who this is. You can probably find out, but a lot of compromises here, right? 2019, and that's one of the partners leaked from social media. Now, this is pretty important. You see that? So this little guy tells me what other information is available for sale for that user: address, zip, phone. So now Schwarzberg has his address, city, zip, phone, first name, last name in the public domain. He probably doesn't know it, but I might need to call him on that. This is not a customer, by the way. It's just a company I've worked with. Um, yeah. So, but you get the idea. So there is a lot of information that goes on sale, and the Pi 2 hit, the Pi hit we call it, is the P2 hit is additional information that might be available for sale, right? So in this case, this is interesting to me because this is not a good thing to have. Not only now do you know the email, the passwords, their social media info, but now you also have their physical info in the hand of bad guys. So essentially what this means is that if you were savvy enough, a savvy enough bad guy, you could actually launch an attack via phone because you have a phone number here, or you can do via phone and via mail. So if you get a phone call and says and it says, oh hey, I'm calling from the IRS. You're gonna, you're gonna get something in the mail from me, 2 days from now or whatever, and then 2 days from now that mail actually arrives. Whoa, that just legitimizes it, right? I mean, in pretty much every layman's mind out there, it's going to be like, whoa, this is real, when it's really not. So all that information got released through a social media breach. That's what this tells us. So now I'm gonna move this off, and I'm gonna go back to our test domain, and I'm gonna show you what kind of alerts that we get when you're monitoring somebody, right? So let's go down here. Let's see. We're gonna do Grandma's Garden. So this is just a report on what simulations have been done, what training has been done. But what I'm interested in is the compromise, right? So that's the same Katie compromise that we did the instant search on. And this is showing us more information. So look at that. The full password. Now this is just a test domain, so it really doesn't matter. But the breach happened from MyFitnessPal. So now if that account is tied to this domain and this is a company sponsored deal, then this password is probably the same password that user uses for her email as well. So that's how these attacks work. It's everything links to everything else, right? So that's how this attack happens. So let me close out of that. So the next step is going to be get with Mac, email mac@pcsn.net, and we can Mac can arrange for an assessment so we can run a quick scan on your domain, and then figure out from there how if there are any compromises and what to do about these compromises. Now, of course, if you are in this webinar, and if you are a PCSN customer, then you probably already have MFA enabled, which makes it only harder for the bad guys to get to you, but it does not prevent them to get to you. So even if you have MFA enabled, be sure to implement monitoring at the minimum, and then it's even better and recommended if you, along with monitoring, you have training for users, and then you have phishing simulations for users. So first you train the users, and once they're trained, then you simulate an attack against them and see how they fare. Right now, we're not talking about just random attacks. We're talking about attacks that we foresee as coming out in the near future. So basically, what we want to do is prepare the user for the attack that's going to happen ahead of time. And that's all I have. Now, normally we would do a Q&A, and I think we can, if anybody has any questions. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and then we will open up mic for everybody, and we can do a Q&A real quick if you guys want to do that. So let me stop the recording here.